Evening, everyone. On behalf of WRC, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all on this program on NFRA. And for this, we have with us none other than our own Honorable Past President Amarjit Chopra, sir. And I recognize the presence of Chairman WRC Murtaza Kachwala, sir. Past Chairman WRC Manish Gadia, sir. Treasurer WRC Piyush Chandak, Moderator of the day Padmashree Crasto, and Regional Council member Ankit Rathi is also there, who is sitting with me here. So before starting the session, I request everyone to please put your hand on your heart for the ICAI motto.
येष सुप्तेषु जागृति येष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामंशो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते अस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यर्यकश्चनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
Thank you. I recognize the presence of our Regional Council member, CA Hitesh Pomal, sir, also. So, friends, this year, under the able leadership of our Chairman Murtaza Kachwala, sir, we are witnessing a lot of new initiatives, and our theme with the theme lead, which is leap towards excellence, achievement, and development. This year, our more and main focus is how we can technically equip our chartered accountant. So let's hear directly from our chairman. So I would request our chairman, please address to the participant.
Thank you, Shata madam. At the outset, let me thank Honorable Past President of ICAI, Amarjit Chopra ji. Sir, extremely grateful, sir, for accepting my invitation, and sir, accepting to share your knowledge with all the participants, sir. Welcome and thank you, sir. Let me also thank moderator for today, Padmashree Crasto. Padmashree, thank you. And I'm sure you're going to ask so many questions and get a lot of information from Chopra, sir. So thank you for doing this tough job and welcome. Let me also recognize presence of immediate past chairman of WRC, CA Manish Gadia. Manish bhai, welcome. And thank you for supporting us today on this program. I recognize presence of treasurer WRC, Piyush Chandak, my regional council colleague Hitesh Pomal and Ankit Rathi. And welcome to all the participants on this program on NFRA. At times, we get calls from members. We even read a lot of comments on WhatsApp. Okay, like now this new thing called NFRA has come. The powers of ICAI will be taken away. This will happen. That will happen. I think there are a lot of doubts, and there are some type of anxiety which is there. And we thought, why not from a leader, an expert who can clarify everything in a crystal clear manner, and the type of knowledge that Chopra sir has. I'm sure all questions, all doubt, it will be possible for us to get clarification in the next 1.5 hours. As I understand from my limited knowledge, it was always at ICAI, we had this disciplinary mechanism, and we were taking, selecting cases, taking disciplinary action on our members. But somewhere I think there was a feeling that we're not doing enough. But friends, many a times it appears like we do a lot of hard work, we are not able to explain that we do. And again, in my mind, I think the basic foundation is the standard on auditing. Whether whatever we are doing, whether it is true and fair, are we giving an reasonable assurance? Whether it's true and correct, are we giving an absolute assurance? Whether it is really an audit or is it an agreed upon procedure assignment? Do I document by way of engagement letter the scope of work? What is my role? What will I do? What will be my deliverable? What will be my liability and responsibility? And do I have enough document evidence to say that I've done my work? I think which is very, very important. And I'm sure there will be a lot of things which will come up. And if we do this right, I think if not more, at least 30, 40, 50% of cases will reduce against us because we'll be able to prove that we've done the work. So with that little background, since we have an expert here today, let us listen to him. And thank you for joining. And thank you very much, Shweta. And over to you again. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman Sir, for your words. So friends, I know you all are eagerly waiting to hear Amarjit Chopra sir. So I don't want to come in between, but before handing over charge to him, I request Hitesh Pomal sir to please introduce our today's moderator and speaker and Honorable Past President Amarjit Chopra sir. Over to you, Hitesh sir.
Thank you, Shweta madam. Audible?
Audible.
Okay. Thank you, Shweta madam, for giving me this opportunity today evening. First of all, I will introduce Padmashree Crasto madam. She is the partner with the Audit and Assurance Practice at MSKB and Associate LLP. She operates out of the Mumbai office and has over nearly 16 years of extensive experience in practicing audit services across the industry verticals of insurance, financial services, and manufacturing. She is in charge of keeping the audit team well informed of the latest technical developments in various statutes and regulations, preparations of the certain publications for internal as well as the external use. She also does the standardization of various reports, templates, work papers for the purpose of audit. She is also responsible for the quality assurance function in the audit and assurance services, which technical include review of deliverables, even conduct of the online review or cold review of the audit files, and thereby managing the risk. She possesses the in-depth knowledge of standards of auditing, both Indian as well as the international, quality standards, methodology, IFRS, company law, accounting standard, etc. And she imparts training program on technical, quality, methodology, apt, and other matters of professional interest. She is a contributor to the WRC publication, Anthology of KM and other reporting matters, model financial statements for non-corporate entities. She will be moderating today's session on NFRA. And now I will take the opportunity to introduce my mentor, guru, and our Honorable Past President of our institute, CA, Dr. Amarjit Chopra sir. He is the highly acclaimed chartered accountant for more than 42 years. CA Dr. Amarjit Chopra sir is a senior partner of GSA and Associate Chartered Accountants at New Delhi, and he was the president of our institute during the year 2010-11. He has been the chairman of various committees such as the National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards by the central government for last 3 years, and he was also nominated as a member of Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority by the central government of India. He has been nominated by IDA on the Standing Committee of the Accounting Issues in Insurance Companies. He chaired the several important committees that dealt with the auditing and accounting standards, corporate governance, and banking at the national as well as the international level. He has served as independent director to Bank of Baroda as well as the Indian Bank, and sir was the member of the Securities and Exchange Board Committee on Disclosure and Accounting Standards, board member of the Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, and member of Audit Committee of the Reserve Bank of India. Besides, sir is also on the board of the various private sector companies as an independent director. Sir has contributed significantly to the professional development of the auditing as well as the accounting discipline in India over the years. He was responsible for introducing IFRS certificate course in India and Middle East. He has been a part of IFRS training programs for members of Nepal and Myanmar institutes. Corporate governance and due diligence attracted his attention and was nominated to the SEBI committee to review the performance of
Hitesh bhai, you can cut it
corporate.
short. Yeah. You can cut it short, please.
Sir is a prolific speaker and has delivered nearly more than 2,750 lectures on various topics, including accounting and auditing standards, IFRS, etc. And sir is presently on the board of many listed companies in India. And with these introduction, I request sir and Padmashree Crasto madam to take the session forward. Thank you so much for coming here, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Hitesh, sir, for the lovely introduction. Hi, friends. Good evening. The NFRA is something that from the day that it has got introduced, we every time we think about a report that is in public, we think about the pros and cons of it. What is the process? How is it happening? What are the conflicts? And there are so many questions that actually go around in our mind endlessly. And even when we are filing our firm's returns, there are so many questions that we come across. So I would thank Murtuza sir and Shweta ji who have provided this opportunity to actually interact with Amarjit Chopra sir. Sir, without much of further deliberation on the introduction, rather I'll get on to the questions because there are so many questions, and I know there will be questions from the answers as well. Just to start off with, what is the background and how did when did NFRA actually come into existence? By and large, like a brief background, if you can provide us.
Thank you, Padmashree, and of course, thanks to Hitesh bhai for the generous introduction. Thanks, Murtuza bhai, and thanks to Manish bhai, Shweta, Piyush Chandak ji, and Ankit Rathi, and all other friends who are there in the program. See, when you talk of NFRA, it might have been notified in October 2018. It was actually notified on 1st October 2018, so far as the appointment of the chairperson and the two permanent members were concerned. But if you go to the background with the question that you have asked me, see, before 2013, there has been a lot of talk that probably institute has been going slow so far as the disciplinary mechanism of the institute is concerned. Now, rightly or wrongly, I'm not getting into that unless you ask me the question with regard thereto. But the fact of the matter is that the parliamentarians and in general public, there has been a perception that chartered accountants are being disciplined by the elected members, and there is a conflict of interest to that extent.
Yeah.
And of course, there were cases with regard to the Harshad Mehta scam. Then there were certain other scams in which the things did happen. There was a Satyam scam. Now, frankly, in certain cases, the fears of the public and the fears of the parliamentarians are totally unfounded. So far as the disciplinary mechanism of the institute is concerned, I think there are several reasons for which the proceedings could not take place. I will explain that a little later. But the fact of the matter is that if you ask me, Section 132 was there in the Companies Act 2013 to begin with. And I must say it was the achievement of the institute that for 5 years it was not notified. This section was not notified. Despite the fact that it was in the Companies Act, this section was not notified. But the day Nirav Modi happened, the day Nirav Modi scam happened, after that the government had no choice. Believe me, I will use those words because at that time we met the Honorable Finance Minister of that particular period, who was also heading the MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, late Shri Arun Jaitley. And he said in very clear terms when we met him that, look, now Nirav Modi has happened, and you look at the magnitude of this scam, it is 11,000 crores, basically. So now probably it will be very, very difficult for me to answer it in the parliament why a section is there in the Companies Act, but it is not notified because of the chartered accountants pressure or chartered accountants lobby, whatever word you can use. So that was the day. Very frankly, had Nirav Modi scam not happened, there was a possibility that either this could have gone out of the statute books by the efforts of certain parliamentarians or otherwise, or it could have been delayed further. But because of Nirav Modi scam and the magnitude thereof, I think we must all appreciate that the ruling parties are answerable to certain opposition members. And if a particular section has been in the Companies Act right since 2013, but it is not being notified, which is to discipline the errant members of a particular institute, I think the government becomes answerable in those cases. And the government definitely wanted to protect its own interest also to that extent that they will go to the parliament and say that now we have notified the NFRA and now the disciplinary mechanism gets strengthened as a consequence thereof in such frauds. So this is the background so far as coming into existence of NFRA is concerned. But I must say, more than anything else, it is the Nirav Modi scam which has been responsible for actually introduction of NFRA in 2018.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So, so it is often, as Murtuza sir also mentioned, as in the beginning, you also mentioned that there is a section that is sitting in the Companies Act, which was not notified earlier, but then it got notified later in 2018, and then the board got constituted, and then it started functioning. This thing. One of the questions that always looms around us is that whether NFRA is going to be a substitute of ICAI in terms of the actions to be taken. So how do you see that whether it is going to be a substitute of ICAI?
No, it's not a substitute. I don't agree there. I think this theory is also totally unfounded. If you look at the scheme of the things, the number of cases, the kind of companies which will be actually the kind of firms which will be subjected to NFRA proceedings, those are very limited. Very, if you really get into that. I can even quote the numbers to you, the number of companies which are there. Out of the total companies in India which run into several lakhs, it's only about 8,000 companies which are in the purview of NFRA today. And you know, the total number of the companies are running into more than 11 or 12 lakh for that matter. Out of these also 6,700 companies are listed entities, almost 6,700. I may not be exactly on the figures. The rest 1,200 or so are unlisted entities. The turnover of which or the paid up capital of which or the net worth of which is within those limits in which the NFRA can be brought into play. So I will not agree that it is a substitute. After all, you see, one thing that I will like to explain here is, what are the functions of NFRA? Let's go into that. That's very important. NFRA has three main roles. One is that whatever accounting standards the institute will frame, and then these will go to NFRA. Earlier, these used to go to NACAS for that matter, for which I had the privilege to head. And then if NFRA finds it to be okay, then they will recommend it to the government. NFRA itself cannot actually notify the standards. Still, NFRA will have to recommend it to the government to notify those standards. Rather, the only difference is earlier, NACAS was only responsible for recommending the accounting standards to be notified. Now they can even recommend the auditing standards. They have to recommend, not they will have to. They have to recommend the auditing standard also to the government to be notified. But those auditing standards will again be prepared by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So if institute still feels that certain carve-outs are to be done, either in the auditing standards or in the accounting standards compared to the international practices, and if you can convince NFRA that these carve-outs are essential those carve-outs will be taken care of by NFRA also, and the government, whatever the recommendation is going to be government, that will take care of the recommendations of the stand of the institute. The second function is that the quality. For quality, if you ask me, earlier also the quality review board was there, which was outside the institute. It was not within the institute, the quality review board. And there also the total number of members were, the outside members were more compared to the number of the members from the institute. Whereas there were 5 members from the institute, the 6 members were from the non-chartered accountants, and the chairman had to be a non-chartered accountant under all circumstances. So quality review board was already there, which was undertaking the quality reviews also. Rather, quality review board undertook more quality reviews than what NFRA has been able to undertake so far. And I don't think that it will be easy for NFRA to reach even that figure in the near future, whatever was being done by quality review board. And the third thing is that enforcement, if at all the standards have been laid down, both in accounting and auditing, and more importantly, I will come to, we always forget that there are ethical standards also. The law may not talk of it. The law may not talk of it, but when you are going to go before NFRA, even the ethical practices are going to be in play. And I think they are going to take care of it. So then the third portion of their power is with regard to the enforcement thereof, where the disciplinary mechanism comes in. But this disciplinary mechanism will be applicable only in respect of those entities which have been prescribed. And I have already told you, you look at the number of the entities. After all, you have the non-corporate entities also in the country. It is not that there are not non-corporate entities. And the number of listed entities are far more than 6,700 odd. And of course, the number of unlisted entities are far more. You can say, yes, the major cases which will happen, those will go. I can say that where the major scams are going to happen, or where they feel that the public interest is far more substantial, in those cases will definitely go to NFRA for that matter.
Yes, sir. Thanks for that. And I think one of the things that arise from the discussion itself, that is, you mentioned about QRB, we all are aware of the quality review board and the reviews that they pick up. So because of NFRA coming in, has the coverage of QRB has undergone, has it shrunk, or can you think that there can be a better coordination between QRB and NFRA, if that will give out better results? What are your thoughts on that?
Padmashree, very frankly, this is one area which is very dear to my heart. I personally feel NFRA should have taken advantage of the existence of the quality review board. Whatever evaluators were there, whatever quality reviewers were there, they have become experienced by now. They should have taken advantage of those quality reviewers under those circumstances. Unfortunately, that kind of coordination has not happened, very frankly, between quality review board and NFRA. And I still hope, this is my sincere hope, and this is something that one has been talking in the various forums, even before the authorities, and even before the government for that matter, that somewhere or the other there is a need that quality review board and NFRA must act in tandem. Rather, the quality review board's experience should be taken advantage by the NFRA rather than treating it as something else. What happens is when two authorities are created, they start treating them as competitors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And this is world over phenomenon. This is not, it's peculiar to India alone. I personally feel that NFRA should have a larger heart and should say that I am willing to come to the quality review board, and it will only improve their quality, and it will improve the number of cases that they will be able to do. Let me be very clear about it. Today, NFRA has total strength of about 60 employees only, out of which hardly technical could be 25 or so. That's the way figures I can quote. the figures can be here and there, maybe 5-10%. I will not be exactly on those figures. But the fact of the matter is that they have only 60 employees approximately. Now with 60 employees, 8,000, and out of that, if you have only about 30 or 25 to 30 technical people, how many companies you can do in a year? Let's look at it. You see, institute has been blamed all over the years that we have been slow. But last 4 years, I was there till this 12th February on the disciplinary committee of the institute as a nominee of the government. At least there have been 2 or 3 years in which we have been able to do cases more than 200 or 300 or 400 even, for that matter. So I don't think that anybody can come around and say that we have to be blamed in that particular fashion. But yes, there have been one reason that we were not able to demonstrate to the public at large that what kind of cases we have done. Now, Honorable Finance Minister, in response to the latest bill on whatever changes have taken place in the CA Act recently, got up in the Parliament and said very clearly that in Satyam, no action has been taken. In Satyam, we have taken the action in 2012 itself. The members have got debarred in 2012 itself. It was for the president and vice president or the other officials of the institute to rebut it. That no, it is not correct. Maybe the C Act might have been passed, but at least we could have gone to the media and told everyone that it is not a correct statement that in Satyam the action was not taken. In Satyam the action was taken and the members have been debarred for the lifetime. What else could have been done by the institute? Until January 2011, I can tell you I was the president 10-11. My substantial energy went into few things. One was that IFRS was to be introduced because of the commitment of the government, on which the government itself went back. We could get 35 of the standards notified that particular year itself. And we could also at the same time, there was a stay in Satyam case. And one was actually trying one's best that before one lays down the office on 12th February, one should be able to get the stay vacated. And one could get the stay vacated in January. And in 2012, we have acted against the members. We have debarred them for the lifetime. There was the delay. I can't understand that. I personally feel there has to be a better coordination between Quality Review Board and NFRA. And if NFRA takes advantage of the Quality Review Board's experience, I can tell you it will only benefit in improving the quality of the profession. It will not, under any circumstances, undermine the existence of NFRA for that matter. So my humble submission or my humble appeal to NFRA or the government is that there should be some kind of a group you can constitute, working group can be constituted between NFRA and the Quality Review Board and the institute itself, which tries to coordinate the activities of all these three together basically, so that even if there is a bigger case and the institute is coordinating, there is no conflict of interest because ultimately the decision is to be taken by NFRA. It is not to be taken by the institute. You can take institute into confidence as to what are the salient points, because the institute can go around and tell the other members that please don't do it. So to my mind, a working group needs to be constituted to make sure that there is a better coordination between the three regulatory bodies. Quality Review Board may or may not be treated as a regulatory body, but definitely Quality Review Board has a very important role. And I can tell you that there have been cases which were recommended by the Quality Review Board, and then the cases against them were pursued in the disciplinary committee and were taken to the logical conclusion.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think by kind of well said that if we have if someone has invented the wheel, we should take advantage of the same and not reinvent.
Why should we reinvent the wheel?
Yeah,
I think the point is, why should we reinvent the wheel if the wheel is already there?
Yeah, the wheel is existing and the wheel is running. So why to go and reinvent the wheel and kind of spend our energies on that? I think that's well said. I agree, sir. After NFRA has got into functionality and how they are functioning, and then based on various reviews that they are doing, how far are we satisfied with the growth of NFRA over this past 3-4 years? How far are we satisfied in the sense that is the outcome as required? Is this is what that is required, and was this something that was envisaged, or we need to have something more, less? So how do we look at the overall growth or functioning of the NFRA over the past 3-4 years?
Very frankly, Padmashree, I don't think it's for us to feel satisfied or dissatisfied. It is for the government to feel satisfied or the public to feel satisfied or dissatisfied with the working of the NFRA. 3 years or 4 years is a very short period in the life of any institution or regulatory body, if you ask me. But I am very clear on one point. In the last 3 years, what they have been able to undertake are about 8 to 10 reviews and 8 to 10 cases of disciplinary. And even those cases have run into problems. 3 of the Deloitte cases, if I'm not mistaken, are under stay. And another one case is under stay because, you see, I have been telling it. I was, whenever I used to deal with the government, I used to say this, and I told it one of the chairman of the NFRA also, when I met him for the first time, that don't live under a false impression that people will not take stays against your orders. If institutes suffered because of the various stays which were being granted, as it was the case in Satyam, as have been the cases in some other cases also, believe me, I don't think that the people will be very kind to an NFRA and say, no, we are willing to be hanged. So people will go and get a stay against their order also. Now, so far as Deloitte is concerned, if I'm not mistaken, they have challenged the jurisdiction of NFRA. They say that the acts for which we are being actually punished now, or against which the disciplinary proceedings that have taken place, those acts were committed before NFRA came into existence. And the matter is yet to be decided. Another one case also, there is a jurisdictional problem. Now, you tell me, if you have done 8 or 10 cases in 3 or 4 years, of course, you can say these have been major cases, there is no doubt about it. And about 8 to 10 reviews you have done. But I must say the quality of the review that they have done is absolutely different. It's just fantastic. On certain points, I may not agree with them. It's also a fact. I may not agree with their reports. But the kind of working which they have done,
yeah,
I think it's absolutely different. They have gone to a standard line by line. And that is the problem with NFRA, if you ask me. That NFRA says that if the word is shall, it has to be shall and it has to be done, irrespective of where is the auditor's judgment in those cases. Whereas I think one has to go by materiality, one has to go by sampling, one has to go by so many other features. So in NFRA, one of the problems has been that the people who are actually trying to assess the conduct of the member, they may not be non-practicing. They may be non-practicing. And when you are a non-practicing member and you are trying to judge the conduct of a member, I say you can take retired practitioners here. Where is the question? I'm not saying you take present practitioners because you feel that there is a conflict of interest. You can take retired practitioners. But the practitioner must understand the sampling part, the maturity part, and the other parts thereof. But one thing that I can tell you that in our disciplinary proceedings, unless somebody says that you have defaulted on ethical conduct, in our peer review also, the kind of emphasis on the ethical standards is there. I don't want to comment right now. But in the NFRA mechanism, I think they are getting into your ethical part to a very, very large extent besides the other part. So, if you, That is why it is taking more time also. Let me also be, as I said, the number of reports may be lower, but then they were also faced with the constraint of the staff strength. There's no doubt about it. And the number of the reviewers, now they are recruiting more people, they are engaging more people. Probably in the times to come, the number of reviews will increase. But I personally feel that if they start getting into the smaller companies or unlisted smaller companies or smaller frauds, basically, then NFRA, the objective for which it has been formed, that objective would be defeated. So my humble request or appeal to NFRA would be that focus on the major part, major scams like ILFS. Yes, please get into. If you have to get into Diwan housing, please get into that particular part. If you have to get into yes bank scam, get into that. Nobody stops you to get into those kind of scams or whatever other scams now, Reliance Home or anything else. I don't know whether there is any case before the NFRA or not. But if these are the kind of cases where probably if you can term it as a real scam, those scams may be investigated rather than small things. Recently, but one thing I must say that they have started getting into some of these smaller cases, but very valid cases also. And these are all based upon, if there is no government complaint, because they can undertake it either suo motu or they can undertake it with reference to a government complaint.
Right.
Now, in these cases, or there is a public, you say in the media, there are reports of the fraud, etc. They can pick up suo motu in those cases. Now, in this case, it's a listed entity. And in the listed entity, the person concerned has used AS, not Ind AS. And this is the step. This is one of the cases that they have picked up right now. And the person has gone to NFRA and said, sir, I belong to a very small town and I was ignorant of Ind AS. Now, that cannot be a ground for someone to actually defend himself. So they have started picking up those kind of cases also. I must say that NFRA in the next fight, if at all I have to test, if at all I have to say whether I'm satisfied or unsatisfied or over-satisfied with the NFRA performance, I have to wait for another 5 years. Because in first 3 years, I cannot, under any circumstances, judge the performance of any of the regulatory bodies for that matter. But I must say that some of the reports that they have done, the reports have come out well. Then there may be, people may say that some of the facts are exaggerated. There's no doubt about it. And some of the cases, it might be. But if you look at the quality of the reports, the quality of the reports would be appreciated by the people. And I think that will send some fears in the mind of the practicing members that if you don't follow the auditing standards now or accounting standards now, or ethical standards, in one of the major cases, what they have come up with, they have come up with saying that your appointment was void ab initio because your parent company outside India was rendering services to this particular entity. Now, how could you say that you are independent? Why do you didn't say that you attracted a disqualification under 144 or under 141? If you were actually rendering some kind of services which you could not have rendered, because even if I read section 144, it very clearly talks of directly or indirectly, and it talks of any person in your network for that particular matter. It talks of wherever you have got into a network, and if your parent or yourself are rendering certain services, you will be covered by it. And there they have tried to cover it up, and then that is why they say that the appointment of the firm in that particular entity was void ab initio for that matter. So I think it's a point which can be well taken. This also brings one to a particular fact कि अपने आप की इंडिपेंडेंस को एक बार जांच लीजिए, क्योंकि अब NFRA जो है वो जब उसके पास केस जाएगा तो वो आपकी इंडिपेंडेंस को भी जांचेगा, वो 141 की हर डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन पे कमेंट करना चाहेगा, वो आपके SQC1 आपके यहाँ फॉलो हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा, उसके ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा नजरिया रखेगा। उसके ऊपर जब आप SQC1 की बात करेंगे, आई विल डेफिनेटली कम अप विद 1 or 2 प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम्स दैट द फर्म्स विल बी फेसिंग इन इंडिया फॉर दैट मैटर। बट आई कैन टेल यू इन one of the observations and one of the cases is कि आपके जो एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर है उसकी जो क्वालिटी का काम चेक करने का जिम्मा है किसी पार्टनर का, जो क्वालिटी रिव्यू पार्टनर है फर्म का, उसने उसको साइन तो किया परंतु उस पर डेट नहीं डाली। ये बड़ा अब क्या है, but it goes on to signify some of the things. Now it may be, one may say that it is a very exaggerated kind of a report, but at the same time it may bring to focus जो हमें ये बताएगी कि भाई हमें आगे से थोड़ा कॉशियस होकर चलना पड़ेगा। आई थिंक टू दैट एक्सटेंट वन फील सेटिस्फाइड कि थोड़ा सा फियर इंस्टिल हो रहा है कहीं ना कहीं पे, थोड़ा सा फियर कहीं पे इंस्टिल तो हो रहा है, और अगर ये फियर इंस्टिल होता है और उससे क्वालिटी इंप्रूव हो सकती हो तो मेरे ख्याल में इसमें कोई बुराई नहीं है।
Right, rightly said, sir. I think code of ethics, so independence rules, all these existed from a long time, but I think it was not so much in limelight, and it was not, I would say it has to be followed in letter and spirit. Maybe that was not happening in few of the cases.
I can only tell you, Padmashree, that in our main report under 700, you have to say
Yeah,
that you are within the code of conduct.
yes.
The code of ethics have been followed. It is very clearly mentioned there. And how you can ignore your own independence?
Exactly. But then, somewhere, somehow, subtly, it has taken a backseat, I would say. But then with so many NFRA reports coming out, with so many, actions being taken up, the importance attached to independence and conflict checks have gone up significantly. Now, as you also rightly said that, due to maybe limitation of staff and things like that, the board had set up to do more reviews, but they are able to handle only so much because of the limitation of staff and technical resources and so much. So maybe if they are strengthening their teams, maybe we will see a surge of reviews, or the numbers may increase in future. I think those are few of the speculations that
No, that's not a speculation. That's not a speculation. Number will definitely go up.
Yeah.
But whether it will go up to 100 even, I am doubtful, very frankly, in a year. It can go up to 100 if they coordinate with quality review board at the same time. मेरा अपना मानना ये, अगर वो क्वालिटी रिव्यू बोर्ड के रिव्यूअर्स का एडवांटेज उठाएं और क्वालिटी रिव्यू बोर्ड को ये कह दें कि भाई आप इसमें दिखवा लीजिए और जो उनकी रिपोर्ट्स हैं उन पर गौर करना शुरू करें, तो शायद ये चीज हो सकती है that the number of reviews will improve.
Right, sir. दूसरा aspect है कि as you rightly pointed out that they have gone line by line on the standard and they have pointed out few things that if it is, for example, if something is written in a certain way, it's more form over subject and not subject over form in certain cases, and that's why few of the observations seem to be a little bit exaggerated as well. Also, we have this commonly present that we as practitioners, when we read those reports, one of the things that come to our mind is audit is situational, because sufficient appropriate audit evidence is not fixed and it depends upon situation to situation, question to question, and client to client. So as you say that every audit is like a snowflake, it's not similar to other one, it will be different in some form or the other. So the sufficiency and appropriateness of audit evidence depends on case-to-case basis. And obviously, we are not manufacturing any product, we are rendering service, especially we are doing audit. So if work is not documented, work is not done, is the basic funda that one has to go by. So this practical versus impractical, I think that debate will continue to exist for some time, is what is my guess. So on the observation front, or on the literal interpretation sense, because as things are situational, if you say, okay, have you sent a confirmation? Okay, I've sent a confirmation. Have you followed it up? Yes, I followed it up. Okay, have you prepared the control sheet? Yes, I prepared the control sheet. Have you done a subsequent check? Yes, I did it, but then one column is blank or something is left out to be documented. So, these things happen practically. So in such cases, so going so much by form and making it a significant finding, and such kind of findings are there, as you are very much aware. So will that actually compilation of all these very typical points, I would say, that is somewhere causing the concern, I believe, in everyone, that the view is not practical and they're not understanding the situation and things like that. What do you say on that?
Let me say, Padmashree, here. It is both sides, I think, are at fault somewhere or the other.
Mhm.
Earlier, I think people were feeling too free. It was too free. I'm using this word in inverted commas. And now it is too stringent.
Yeah.
When you move from one extreme to another extreme, the problems do arise. The pendulum is swinging to the two extremes, basically. Earlier, if somebody would produce the document that I sent for confirmations would not have been received. But if you are convinced that yes, he has sent out the confirmation, one says, yes, you have complied with SA 505, no doubt about it. I don't think that the NFRA is saying whether you followed it up or not, because you can't follow it up. The follow-up has to be done by the company only, ultimately, because you are only supposed to get the confirmations from your side, because you don't write to the parties directly in any case. But the fact of the matter is that every time you get up and say, कि साहब confirmations भेज दी, आई नहीं, और अगर 90% वैल्यू की confirmations नहीं आई हैं, और मैं ये कहता हूँ साहब, I exercise my professional judgment. वो बोलते हैं ये तो बताओ कि आपने ये कैसे judge किया कि whether this party existed or didn't exist. Did you make some inquiries with regard thereto? I don't think any one of us will have the working paper with regard to the existence of the party. Now I can tell you, in one of the disciplinary cases what he had done, the auditor is getting confirmed all the debtors, but he is not getting any of the creditors. Why? I can't understand that. Whereas the most of the volatility was in the purchases itself, was in the expenses side, not in the sales part. Now that's also an extreme, that the auditor can come around, turn around and say that I have got my debtors confirmed because that affects my revenue. That may affect your revenue, but the purchases can affect your profitability. If there are fake bills booked, what do you do? How do you merely by operation in the account you are judging it, or something else? If you look at Schedule 3 changes today, what does it indicate? Why trade payables are not being aged now? Can we think of it? Because that will bring to light what was happening. If a trade payable of a major amount is outstanding for 3 years or 4 years, and you say it is undisputed, why it was not paid when all other creditors have been paid, for that matter? So I think now NFRA coming into play, there will be certain judgments of the auditors which will get challenged. That you can be rest assured. And particularly, I can tell you, what NFRA is expecting is your professional skepticism must increase somewhere or the other.
Yeah.
You cannot work without professional skepticism. And whatever management assumptions are there, whatever management representations are there under 580, these are supposed to be challenged. Why? Can you take a management representation on the face value? The answer is no. Similarly, in the impairment, if somebody says that this is my presumption, these presumptions are going to be challenged like anything. Let's be prepared for it.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you can be very clear, so far we have been staying away from the propriety angle altogether. As auditors, we have been saying we are expressing opinion only on the true and fair view. Somewhere or the NFRA, somewhere or the other, the NFRA is coming into play and say, no, you have to get into certain other things. Why? Now you are supposed to comment upon advances in the nature of loans. I think in the Schedule 3, first management has to say, and then the auditor has to comment now. Earlier also inquiries were to be made under 143. It's not that the inquiries were not to be made, but the comment was not required. Now your comment is required and the management is supposed to say whether any advances in the nature of the loan, and forget about all these things. Now the money that you advance or you give loan to somebody, there have been cases, numerous cases, not one or two. I think a very significant amount of the money has been siphoned off by transferring these monies to certain other companies abroad or otherwise. Or there have been certain dubious means of making investments here and there. Now, what NFRA is going to challenge, and what has happened in Rule 11E for that matter is
11E11.
that if the loan has been given, whether the management is given with certain intended motive that this should be treated in a particular manner, the money should be treated in a particular manner by the recipient. Firstly, the company has to give it, and then the recipient has to give it that confirmation that it has been used for the purpose for which it was, and it was for the business purposes. It was never being challenged by anybody. Now, these monies have been actually taken circuitous routes. Now the auditor will be tested on this. Mind my words today. The auditor would be tested on evergreening of the loan and advances.
Yeah.
It is going to be one of the major areas. Now, what has happened is, if you ask me that, and I think this is a loophole which is there in the Act, and it will be taken care of, if not here, this year, next year, and the institute has kept silent on it. You treat evergreening of a loan only if it is after the due date of the loan. If the loan has become overdue and if you extend it, you say it is evergreening. But if the loan has been extended a month before or 2 months before or 3 months before of its becoming due, you don't treat it as evergreening because the institute has not commented upon that in the guidance note. No comment has been made with regard thereto. I think somewhere or the other, the NFRA may ask you a very specific question that if at all, whether you went into the liquidity position or financial position of the other company and you found out whether they were able or unable to make you the payment. If they were having the position to make you the payment and you still extended, it's a different matter. But if they didn't have the ability to make you the payment, then it is definitely evergreening. So ये कुछ चीजें हैं जो आने वाले टाइम में NFRA is going to look into, and I can tell you, we may say that microscopic, non-microscopic. तो दूसरी बात ये जो आपने audit evidence की बात की परमेश्वरी, you see, if I have raised a particular issue from my own working papers, they are able to base that I raised a particular issue, and I have dropped it. They say, please provide us the audit evidence. Why did you drop it? Why did you accept their version? No, there is nothing wrong in it. After all, अगर मैं engagement partner हूँ और मैं उस quality partner हूँ, engagement quality partner हूँ, तो मुझे ये तो देखना ही पड़ेगा कि अगर एक objection मैंने raise की थी तो उसको अगर मैंने drop किया तो मैंने drop क्यों किया? तो ये तो होने ही वाला है. Mark my words today. ये audit evidence का मसला इतनी आसानी से हल नहीं होगा. और हम कुछ भी कहते रहे, जहां पे हमारे वर्किंग पेपर्स में हमने ऑब्जेक्शन, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि ऑब्जेक्शन रेज करना ही बंद करो, ठीक है, मुझे वर्किंग पेपर में कोई ऑब्जेक्शन दिखाना ही नहीं है कि मैंने कौन सा ऑब्जेक्शन रेज किया था, ये नहीं मैं कह रहा हूँ. और दूसरी चीज, दो और चीजें बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है. आई पर्सनली फील दोस आर गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन द टाइम्स टू कम. एक तो ये कि हाउ डिड यू फिक्स योर मटेरियलिटी. मैं कहता हूँ कि मटेरियल नहीं, आप बताओ तो सही, आपने मटेरियलिटी लेवल फिक्स कैसे किया था, and did you communicate it to the audit committee or you didn't communicate it to the audit committee? And the second thing is this sampling.
Yes.
How did you pick up the sampling?
Yeah.
I think ये जो sample size है ना, this is going to be an important issue in the times to come. Now, NFRA is not going to leave it. I can tell you there are banks, private sector banks, in which the auditor has picked up just 15 advances, total 15 advances. यदि मेरा हो गया, सैंपल हो गया, वो 15 एडवांसेस में आपको गलती मिल ही नहीं सकती. वो 15 एडवांसेस में आपको गलती नहीं मिलेगी, आपको गलतियां मिलेंगी बाकी एडवांसेस में। पर वो कहते हैं मैंने 10 डिपॉजिट जो मेन थे ना, मेजर डिपॉजिट थे, वो मैंने चेक कर दिए। ये नहीं चल सकता। I think after coming into existence of NFRA, our maturity and our sampling is going to be under challenge. Let me be very clear about it. In the times to come, the questions will be asked on this.
Yeah.
Questions will be asked on it, where the presumption with regard to impairment, the presumption with regard to going concern, the presumption with regard to a challenging of the management representation. There are going to be major issues so far as these parts are concerned. You can be rest assured about it. And there's going to be no, I can say, leniency on those issues in the times to come.
Right. One of the things that you mentioned, materiality. So, you know, even as of now, SA 700 says that if you want to mention what is your materiality or how did you determine your materiality, you can mention it in your report. As of now, it's not a widely accepted practice, say in India, or widely circulated practice in India. But, you know, few of the companies, a few of the firms do that. And even, you know, abroad also, few of the firms are doing that. I think that's valid. And on this thing specifically on the sampling, it's always a question that how did you select the sample. I would rather agree with that on a very larger basis. Another thing that we mentioned about conflicts, and then we mentioned about independence and so much about, you know, how the conflicts are being handled and things like that. Are there any inherent conflicts within NFRA itself? Are there anything that actually is going around there?
I think this is something that I have been talking about. To see if the chairman of NFRA is going to be heading all the committees. He is the chairman of the committee which looks into the accounting standards and auditing standards. To me, that's not very relevant. He may. But if he is the chairman of the committee which is getting into the quality review, and if he is also the chairman of the committee which is getting into the enforcement, that's the disciplinary part. Now, you are not going to challenge your own report. If you have held somebody guilty, if you have said yourself that the quality of this particular firm is not good, or the quality of the work performed is not good, are you going to say in your disciplinary proceedings, no, I was wrong? There is a conflict of interest straight away in those cases. I personally feel that it may happen. I'm expecting at least soon it may happen that there could be rules. There could be amendment to the rules in which it may be asked that probably the chairman of these committees could be different, or they should ensure their independence so far as that particular part is concerned. You see, so far as their independence of the chairman and permanent members is concerned, they are definitely independent in one way, that they are not linked with any of the professional firms. And even 2 years after of their retirement, they cannot get into any of the such firms under any circumstances. So the government has tried to protect the independence, and that is why I think they will never appoint a practicing member or even a retired practicing member to the post of the chairman or permanent member. Permanent member, still I feel that at some point of time may happen, but chairman may not happen. Though I personally feel when it comes to the chairman of the disciplinary committee, that fellow should be a chartered accountant somewhere or the other, whosoever he may be. Because someone has to have a knowledge of auditing or an accounting standard. If you are going to hold somebody guilty or non-guilty, you must first understand the standard yourself. If you don't understand the accounting or auditing standard, how you can a doctor be held guilty by a non-doctor in the medical council? No way it's going to happen. Can in the bar council a person, of course, they have never held anybody guilty. Bar council in their lifetime has not taken action against any of their members so far. But can the bar council be headed by any of the non-advocates? No way it's going to happen. And I think this entire argument of conflict of interest of chartered accountants in the disciplinary committee is overstretched, if you ask me. After all, who are the people who sit on the various courts as judges? They are all advocates. And who represents before them? All advocates. So I think against chartered accountants, this entire case of conflict of interest is overstretched to an extent. So I would only like to stop here so far as this particular question of yours is concerned. But I personally feel so far as the conflict of interest of theirs right now is concerned, I will not say that they have a conflict of interest, but in their divisions, particularly in the matter of, you can say, after all, I have to be independent. There has to be a maker and checker concept. No? If I have prepared a report,
Right.
quality report, then I cannot check that somewhere. Then that checker has to be different. That is the point I am trying to raise here.
Agree.
Now the problem is, all the more or less, I think all the 3 permanent members, the chairman and the 2 permanent members would be there in the quality review also. And they would be there in the disciplinary also. Now, I think they have to ensure that one of the permanent members at least is not there in the quality review, and that he should be chairing the disciplinary part or enforcement part. That I'm quite clear about. And I personally feel, as I said, it is in the stage of evolution.
Yeah.
In the times to come, it will definitely get into that particular stage, because otherwise they would be challenged.
Yes.
The courts will grant the stay only on that particular ground, that there is a conflict of interest. How he can judge me in the disciplinary committee when he himself has prepared the report against me?
Issued the report. Yeah.
So there is no way that it's going to happen. I can tell you, for that matter, in our disciplinary mechanism in the institute, we were very clear earlier what used to happen, that in prima facie cases used to come before the council. If you were a part of the disciplinary committee, you would not be a part of that prima facie case. And the other way around is that if you had decided a particular disciplinary case, when it used to come for final hearing before the council, you could not be a part of the proceedings of that particular case. Because to that extent, the independence was being maintained. So I think there are ways and means in which these things do happen. So let's hope for the best, that in the times to come, the things will get settled and this conflict of interest in this particular part will be taken care of. I think there are a few questions coming in. If you
Yeah,
can
yes,
take up
we
those
will take
questions.
that. Yeah, we will take that up as well in between.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's well said, that we need to maintain independence always, and this is interested party not being the part in the discussion and not heading the same and things like that. And we spoke about the permanent members, and we also spoke about the part-time members. So I think we need to understand also that what are the roles of the part-time members, and we think that needs to be improved. What is the difference between the technical, non-technical member? Will there be separate segregation of duties specifically? So all those aspects, is it carved out, or is it still under evolvement? As I understand, there are many things that are evolving, because it's only 3-year-old, and we expect a lot of changes. Even they are trying to look at and place certain things into certain pockets, and the way it has happened, that only initially the chairman and 2 members were appointed, and then it took course to actually select other members and things like that. So would like to understand something on the part-time members, and how if you feel that can be improved, and also the difference between technical and non-technical members as well.
I definitely have a conflict of interest to this question, because I'm a part-time member myself. You see, about 4 to 5 years back, an amendment was brought into play. Not even 4 or 5 years back, I think only, you can say less than that. An amendment was, after 2018, the amendment was brought into play. Before even part-time members were nominated by the government. And they said that only full-time members will be able to be part of the quality reviews and the disciplinary mechanism.
Okay.
And part-time members will not have any role in that. No, this is something which I can't fathom. Of course, their own argument is that if you are a chartered accountant, you have a conflict of interest, basically. somewhere or the other. But if it is a case against my firm or my relative's firm or my partner's firm, in that case, one can say that I have a conflict of interest. Otherwise, how do I have the conflict of interest? I can't understand that logic. But forget about that. So presently, whatever part-time members are there, whether they are 3 members from the institute, the president, and they are all ex officio members. The secretary of the secretary, of course, is the permanent member now and it's duly appointed. But then the joint secretary from Government of India, from MCA, is also a part-time member. Then the Reserve Bank of India representative is a part-time member. The SEBI member, the representative from SEBI is a part-time member. There are 2 chartered accountants who have actually done this. The 2 members of ours, the chairman, the president of the institute, the chairman accounting standard board, the chairman of the auditing standard board, they are the 3 members by ex officio designation. Now there are 2 part-time members, myself and Mr. Anil Sharma. Now we are only participating in the discussions on accounting and auditing standards. This is something that we have represented. I'm using this word. We have represented to the government that whatever is happening, we may not be a part of the discipline mechanism. We may not be a part of the quality mechanism, report mechanism. But whatever reports are being drafted, we should come before the authority. And we should be discussing those reports also. What is your strategy? How many cases you need to do? How many cases you don't need to do? At least those reports must come before the board. Even if you are you can say independent director on the boards of the companies, you are a part of the strategy. You may not be involved into day-to-day working, but you are definitely a part of the strategy. So I think it's for the government. Again, I said there have been a lot of misgivings on the part of the government or somewhere else. कि भाई अगर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट आ जाएंगे इसमें तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा या पार्ट टाइम मेंबर्स को एम्पावर कर देंगे तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. कुछ नहीं होने वाला यही है कि शायद लोगों की अच्छी सजेशंस आपको मिल जाएंगी एंड यू विल बी एबल टू इंप्रूव द फंक्शनिंग देयर ऑफ. अगर सिर्फ अकाउंटिंग और ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स पे ही करना तो वो तो इंस्टीट्यूट बना के ला रही है. उसमें हमारे 2 चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स की क्या जरूरत है? चेयरमैन ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड इज देयर, द चेयरमैन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड इज देयर, द प्रेसिडेंट इज देयर. So why do you require us to be there? I'm very clear on that. I personally feel the role of the part-time members needs to be redefined, and this is something that we have represented. It's not. I'm very clearly saying that we have represented for it, and it is not that there is a conflict of interest. I personally feel that whosoever comes after us, ultimately, we are not going to continue there for the lifetime. Our term will end next May or June. So whosoever comes after that, they should have a better role to play in NFRA. But one thing I must say, the present chairman, I'm not talking the earlier chairman, the present chairman is far more communicative with the part-time members and the others than the earlier chairman who was there. So I am expecting a change in the attitude, change in the working of the NFRA. That's the way. Because now the training programs have started in which we are involved. Very frankly, the members of the institutes are involved. Their staff members are being trained by us. Their staff members are being trained by the members from the institute. So I think many changes are taking place, and we do expect that the role of part-time members could also undergo a change in the times to come. So far as full-time members are concerned, I don't have to say anything. When I use the word permanent members, I think the word has to be full-time members.
Sure. Okay, so just to understand in brief, we know the process of QRB, how the file selection is done, and then how many people are going to come to your or the firm's office, and how the inspection is going to happen, what is the conclusion deadlines, and then how the things are escalated there. So can you throw some light with respect to the process of review by NFRA specifically once the file gets selected? We all know that certain files get selected where it is of higher public interest, as you rightly mentioned, and also only certain categories of files are under the purview based on turnover, based on the sector that they are operating into and things like that. So once the file and the firm gets selected, then what is the course, and just a little briefing on the process of how the review happens? Is there anything specific that the firms have to be cautious about, or have to be knowing about? Obviously the basic underlying of keeping your files accessible, knowing your documentation, those things we all are aware of, and standards of auditing, complying with all the professional standards of accounting, auditing, and things like that. So can you throw some broad light on the basis of how the process of review happens?
I think a good question. But so far, whatever is happening is that whatever sector is more sensitive, I think the auditors from there will be picked up more. And if there are media reports of something, those auditors are being picked up more, those funds are being picked up more. But in the times to come, I think it has to be random basis. But I'm very sure about one thing. Because all insurance companies or banking companies are covered by it, irrespective of their size. So you can expect definitely banking and insurance companies to be covered every time that something is going to happen. The auditors of this. Now, I will not say all the auditors would be covered, but few of the auditors from those banking and insurance companies are going to be covered. And similarly, the generation of electricity and the transmission of electricity. Those companies are also important, and they are of the national interest also. You look at NTPC today, you look at companies like distribution companies that we have. Now, whether these companies belong to private companies, belong to Ambani's, or these belong to Adani's, or these belong to anyone else, or these are government companies, I think these are all of public interest entities. So wherever the public interest is involved and wherever the borrowings are too heavy, those auditors would definitely be picked up. I can tell you that. And wherever there are indicators coming in now that probably there are signs of stress or something else, I think those things are going to come in. Cooperative banks right now are not there. But in the times to come, these are bound to be covered, because today they believe that cooperative banks are smaller compared to, but then some of the cooperative banks are bigger than the banking companies for that matter. So I think sooner or later they are going to be covered. I have no, and if at all there are going to be frauds, or if there are going to be complaints by the government, there are complaints by the Reserve Bank of India or SEBI against any of the auditors, they are bound to be covered. Let's be clear. So I think whenever a fraud will happen in cooperative bank, their auditors will definitely be covered so far as that part is concerned. Now, the point that one is trying to tell you is that all these sensitive organizations, sensitive entities, you will have more out of these to be picked up. And maybe NFRA tomorrow decides that top 100 companies auditors with the market capitalization. I think that is where the strategy comes into play. And that is why we say that part-time members need to be kept abreast of these changes, basically, for whatever decisions you are going to take. So those auditors need to be far more careful. I think whether on whichever company has the market capitalization and they are in the top 100 companies, I think you can be rest assured that you might be, their auditors would be picked up. Today, of all these about 8,000 companies that I talked of, listed as well as unlisted, there are about 2,700 to 3,000 auditors who are auditing these entities. So whosoever is auditing greater number of entities out of that, there are companies, there are firms which may be auditing maybe 25 of such entities or 35 of such entities. those are bound to be picked up. That you can be rest assured. So I personally feel, one is that there could be a government complaint, then they will pick it up. There are media reports that they are going to pick it up. There are other reasons to pick it up because of the stress in a particular industry or the ongoing changes. Now, you take the case of certain industries in which there are concerns with regard to going concern after COVID.
Yeah.
And if NFRA tomorrow comes to a conclusion that probably these companies need to be picked up to check whether the going concern concept has been duly tested or not, or wherever, in whichever company, the impairment is going to be very, very heavy. Those companies will always be on the radar. So that is the way I can think of. And what the auditors need to be careful about, I think I have already said very clearly. They need to be very clear about what is their ethical policy within the organization to test the independence. What is their, because every firm has to lay down a quality policy also. SQC 1 has to be followed.
Yes.
And who are the people responsible for this? Because in your NFRA 2 form, you are supposed to answer those questions also. NFRA 2 itself, you are bound to give those disclosures. So you can be rest assured that all these things are going to be tested, and all these things will be picked up. And besides that, your working papers, your documentation is going to be important. And in the documentation, again, I repeated the cost of repetition. Your audit evidence collection is very, very important. Your testing of the you can say impairment, your testing of the management assumptions, your testing of the management representation, external confirmations. I think if in the balance sheets, if in the financial statements, every time you keep giving that all party balances are subject to confirmation and reconciliation, I think these are the kind of entities I would like to pick up far in far larger number. Because you can't keep on saying this all the time. And wherever, if somebody has said that the inventories have been valued, have been taken as valued by the management, I think that is one entity which needs to be picked up. Why not?
Yes.
These are the matters. And wherever there are non-compliances with the accounting standard, which are glaringly apparent, I will give you an example. There are certain companies, listed entities, which are giving in the notes to accounts that we have not provided for the interest on loans from the banks because the bank has treated our account as NPA. How you can do it? For the bank, it is the prudential norm which debars them from recognizing that particular revenue. For you, it's a contracted liability, and you are bound to provide for the interest on those liabilities.
Right.
But people are giving these notes in the listed entities, mind it. How you can escape that? And wherever, I can only tell you the ways and means where they will pick up. If there are reports of raids on certain premises and there are seizures, probably they are going to definitely get into that. There are reports with regard to GST evasion. They will definitely go after that. Let's be clear about it. These are some of the things which we need to be careful about.
Yeah, understood. So I think I think you have covered an ambit of things with respect to what can be the trigger or the indicator with respect to the same. And then yes, something like market cap, top 10, top 100 companies, future Fortune 500 type of, and out of that a certain population. All these things are something that are having more public interest, I guess.
In my mind, one of the ways could be that if you have tremendous presence outside India,
yeah,
you could be one of those.
You could be one of those, because then this 1111F also maybe
all those things will come.
Yeah. And I think
particularly in some countries like Mauritius, Dubai, etc.,
Cayman Island,
and tax havens, basically. If you have
Cayman Island and all. Yeah.
You are more likely to be picked up.
Yeah, right, sir. So having understood the process, I think as of now we have seen a lot of audit quality reports on the website that is being published. Also, what is the future course of action, in the sense that there are lots of findings and then there are answers, means representations done by the company, and then there are final findings and things like that. What is the course of action? Will that be amounting to some kind of a financial penalty, any kind of a criminal, penalties? It's only civil, criminal, and how? Because abroad, actually, I think one of the gentlemen has asked that question as well, that in case of FRC or in case of PCOB, there is a definitive order, and then there are penalties that are laid down. There are, in certain extreme cases, there will be some
No, if
criminal
you
liabilities.
refer to Padmashree, if you refer to rules for NFRA rules 2008,
Yeah.
you get the answer yourself.
Yeah.
In the case of an individual, the penalty which can be levied on you, or the fine which can be levied on you, is minimum 1 lakh and up to 5 times of the audit fee charge. That's the maximum. If you have charged, say, 25,000 rupees, then maximum penalty that can be levied on you as an individual is 1,25,000.
Yeah.
But if you are a firm, you are a partnership firm, and on the firm, the minimum penalty will be 10 lakh rupees or 10 times thereof, basically. So if you really ask me, 10 times of the audit fee charge. So I think this is one of the very significant features which is there. And besides this, they can order for the closure, debarring the firm, debarring an individual for a period maximum up to 10 years, for a maximum period of 10 years. So it is not that we are not comparable with FRC or with PCOB. PCOB and FRC have gone more for the, you can say, penalties. Whereas NFRA retains the right of even debarring an individual or debarring a firm from carrying out the practice. Now, to me, debarring a firm should be only an exceptional circumstance. If you really ask me, if you feel they have actually connived, they have colluded, that should be the case. Because otherwise, you are putting the interest of so many employees, so many partners at stake.
Yeah.
So that should be used in absolutely exceptional circumstances. Now that power has been given even to the institute. Let me be very clear about it. Earlier, the institute didn't have the power, and whenever the government was challenging us in 2010 itself, we recommended to the government that you say that we are not debarring the firm. We don't have the power to debar the firm. We only have the power to take action against an individual as per section 21 at that time. So we said, you allow us the power, and we gave a section to them. We amended, gave them a modified section and said, you give us the power under exceptional circumstances where we feel that there is a collusion or connivance of the firm and all the partners knew about it. In that case, we should be able to go ahead with the debarring of the firm. I think NFRA also must use the power of debarring the firm very sparingly, under extreme circumstances, because that can be a very, very nasty step to be taken, if you really ask me.
Sure.
So it is not that we are lagging behind FRC or PCOB so far as these matters are concerned, but our penalties are lesser, much lesser. But I think when you calculate there, you calculate it in terms of dollars and then you convert it into rupees, and the pounds are converted into rupees. Now, if you convert 80 rupees into a dollar into 80 rupees, the penalties seem to be very high. But if you look at in terms of the dollars, it could be lower, very frankly, in terms of the fee which they are charged. So all those things are already there. So the NFRA has the power there, and they are using. I think even in this case which I told you of the listed entity, in which the Ind AS has not been used and the only AS has been used, they have gone ahead with the both things, the penalty as well as the barring of the individual for a particular period.
Yeah. Right, sir. So I think one of the things that always keeps hanging on our mind is there is so much of, I can say it can be said as a media hype, or it can be said as like auditors are on the limelight, and auditors being one of the risky profession as of now. We've seen many youngsters who have freshly qualified or things like that. They even, while conversing with few of them, we've even heard, no, we don't want to sign anything because that's the riskiest thing ever. And whatever is done, it is auditor who has done it rather than the company. So one of the things that is like, what are the powers of NFRA to actually take some actions on companies? It may be direct, indirect through MCA or something. And that is one of the questions that even I had on mind, and one of the participants has also raised similar questions, that we are so much in limelight and things like that. So anything that, even because prima facie preparation of financial statements, books of account, everything is the management function, and then the auditor comes into picture. So obviously, if the auditor is in connivence with the management and things like that, and has done wrong, or he has not fulfilled his duty, that's a different scenario. But almost it is every day in and day out, we see the newspapers, we see so many things. It is even a person who, I'll just share you with a very light instance. Being in Mumbai, we'll travel in local train, and people who are not aware of, not having any disregard to anyone, don't take me otherwise, people who actually do not know what do auditors do are also commenting upon when you are, conversing. Someone is talking about, the auditors are the only ones to be punished. So obviously, when we are standing there, when we are sitting there, it's somewhere, it's not the right thing, because we know in certain circumstances it's situational, and certain things may have happened in a certain manner. Yeah, it's not that the wrong people should not be punished, but then the way it is put up and so much of limelight on auditors only being wrong is something, what that is worrisome. So what do you think? How is it going to evolve?
I can only tell you, Padmashree, that and I will definitely like to have some questions on this one. We are a country where we have NPA level of 8 lakh crore rupees as of now. And we have written off 8 lakh crore in the last about 5 years. So 16 lakh crore rupees gone down the drain. 16 lakh crores. I don't know how many zeros I have to put. About 11.5 lakh crores of agricultural loans. Nothing is going to come back. About 8 lakh crore is Mudra loans. Nothing is going to come back. About 7 lakh crore rupees to the stressed discoms. I don't want to comment upon that. हमारी जिम्मेवारी सब में नहीं रही होगी, कुछ में तो रही होगी.
Agreed.
कुछ केसेस में तो रही होगी. भाई मैं ये मान सकता हूं कि ऑडिटर बेचारा क्या करे. मैं तो बेचारा कहता हूं ऑडिटर को, पर ये बेचारा वाला टेंडेंसी चल नहीं सकती लोग.
चल नहीं सकता.
तो किंगस्टन कॉटन मिल्स का जो केस था ना, वो हम जब बीकॉम में थे तब भी हमने वही पढ़ा कि भाई ऑडिटर इज अ वॉचडॉग, नॉट अ ब्लडहाउंड. ठीक है, हम वॉचडॉग रहेंगे तो हम, मतलब कि वो कहते हैं तो आप डॉग ही. आप वेदर यू आर ए वॉचडॉग और ए ब्लडहाउंड, आप हो डॉग ही इन एनी केस. तो मैं ये कहता हूं कि भाई आप ना तो वॉचडॉग बने ना ब्लडहाउंड बने, बार्किंग डॉग तो बनिए.
राइट.
सेंड सम अलर्ट सिग्नल्स. अगर हम अलर्ट सिग्नल्स भी नहीं भेज रहे, और अगर आप पूरी कार और शेड्यूल 3 में चेंजेस देखें तो वो क्या है, वो आपसे सिग्नल्स ही तो मांग रहा है ना ऑडिटर से, और क्या मांग रहा. उसमें मैं थोड़ी देर में आ रहा हूँ, 1-2 मिनट में. और उससे पहले मैं एक बात कहना चाहता हूँ. आपने कहा शेयर होल्डर को तो कुछ पता नहीं, अकाउंट्स बनाए मैनेजमेंट ने. शेयर जितने स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं वो फाइनल पॉइंट पे किसको देख रहे हैं. देखिए, जब सब कुछ हो गया, फाइनल चेकिंग किसकी है? फाइनल चेकिंग तो ऑडिटर की है. किसी ने बनाया अकाउंट्स गलत, ऑडिटर का रोल क्या है? लेट्स बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट इट ना. वो आप ये कहते नहीं अकाउंट तो मैनेजमेंट ने बनाया, बिल्कुल बनाया। मैं कहता हूँ उसने फ्रॉड किया, मैनेजमेंट ने फ्रॉड किया, गलत अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी बनाई, कुछ भी किया, स्टॉक को गलत वैल्यू किया, उसके बाद चेकिंग किसने करनी है? लास्ट पॉइंट तो मैं ही हूं ना। सो द बक हैज टू स्टॉप एट मी। मैं कुछ भी कहूंगा, whatever I will do, people will keep on saying the boss, you may say that management prepares the account, but who ultimately checks it? And if you can't save us, then who else will save us? So it is easier said than done what I am saying to you. But the fact of the matter is that is why the people expect the auditors to be more watchful. But yes, audit is not nearly that. Audit का मतलब एक expression of opinion है basically. हम यही कहते रहेंगे. But believe me, जिस तरीके से हमने asset 240 को तोड़ा है ना, ये नहीं चलता. ये हम यही कहते रहेंगे, if I stumble upon some information which is fraudulent in nature, I am not supposed to look into frauds. भाई एक पार्टी ने लोन लिया बैंक से, वर्किंग कैपिटल ले रखी है 50 करोड़ की है. And I know one of the covenants of this is that they are supposed to give the stock statement to the bankers, debtor statement to the bankers, creditor statement to the bankers. तो क्या मेरा फर्ज नहीं है उसको चेक करना? मेरा फर्ज है. हो रहा है क्या? हो रहा है क्या? मेरा क्वेश्चन ये कि was it happening? If it was happening, then it would not have been required to be brought as a change in the schedule 3. That first the management will confirm and then the auditor will confirm. It has not happened, unfortunately. So कहीं ना कहीं पे गलती हमारी है, कहीं ना कहीं पे ओवर एक्सपेक्टेशन भी है ऑडिटर को.
राइट.
कि भाई अगर मैनेजमेंट, अब कई जगह पे क्या होता है, मैनेजमेंट ने अकाउंट ही दूसरा खोल रखा है और मुझे पता ही नहीं उस अकाउंट में क्या हो रहा है, तो मैं कैसे पकड़ूंगा उसको? भाई अकाउंट कहीं पे पिक्चर में आए उसको मैं पकड़ूं तब तो मुझे समझ आ, मैंने नहीं पकड़ा तो समझ में आती. अगर उन्होंने एक अकाउंट ही दूसरा खोल रखा है कैश के लिए और वो अकाउंट पैसा उसमें जमा होता है, वहां से ट्रांजैक्शन होती है, आई कांट कैच होल्ड ऑफ इट. देयर इज नो वे दैट द ऑडिटर, बट पब्लिक एक्सपेक्ट्स कि मैं वो भी कैच करूं.
वो भी देखो.
आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट इज एब्सोल्युटली रिडिकुलस. अब पब्लिक ये समझती है कि भी हर पार्टी की जेन्युइनिटी है ना जो ऑडिटर को चेक करनी है. पर मैं इसलिए कहता हूँ कि मुझे क्रेडिटर से कंफर्मेशन जितनी ज्यादा ले सकूं या डेटर से जितनी कंफर्मेशन ज्यादा ले सकूं ना अच्छा. मुझे अभी तक याद है जब पहली बार 2003 में शायद कारो आई थी, 2000 माओ कारो से कारो में चेंज हुआ था और पहली बार क्लॉज आया था कि भी क्या कंपनी के ऊपर या कंपनी ने की मैनेजमेंट ने कोई फ्रॉड किया. मुझे अभी तक याद है पुणे की कंपनी है, उसमें ये कमेंट आया था माओ कारो के अंदर कि पिछले 3 साल से व्हीकल सप्लाई हो रही थी किसी डीलर को, पर अब कंपनी ने ये जाना है कि भी वो डीलर एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता एंड इट वाज ट्रीटेड एज ए फ्रॉड ऑन मैनेजमेंट. मुझे नहीं समझ आया कि हाउ इट वाज अ फ्रॉड ऑन मैनेजमेंट. Whether it was a fraud by management or on management, it's a very difficult question to be answered. तो कहीं ना कहीं पे मेरे ख्याल में हम गलत हैं, कहीं ना कहीं पे कोई और गलत है, कहीं पे एक्सपेक्टेशन गलत है. पर एक बात पक्की है कि कहीं ना कहीं हम चूके हैं अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी से. हम डिस्क्लेमर डाल के किसी भी तरीके से पार्टीज आर सब्जेक्ट टू कंफर्मेशन, बैलेंसेस सब्जेक्ट टू कंफर्मेशन, रिकंसिलिएशन. एक कंपनी ने एडवांस दिया हुआ किसी पार्टी को, आप ये कहते हो एडवांस है, किसके लिए एडवांस है? क्योंकि उसने सप्लाई करना है मटेरियल. उस कंपनी की टर्नओवर कितनी है? 1 करोड़ की. आपने एडवांस कितना दिया हुआ? 30 करोड़ का. तो एडवांस है क्या? It is direct. It is very clearly in the nature of a loan. Yeah, it is a cycling of the amount. तो मैं जो आपको बात बताना चाह रहा हूँ, कारों में ये जो चेंजेस आई हैं इस बार, these are only to send alerts. After all, जो ये इंटरमीडिएरीज का भी क्वेश्चन पूछा गया भी जिसको आपने पैसा दिया और जिससे आपने पैसा लिया उसने किस पर्पज से दिया, आपने किस पर्पज से यूज किया, आपने किस पर्पज के लिए दिया, उसने किस पर्पज से यूज किया. इट इज नॉट एन इजी लाइफ फॉर द ऑडिटर. जो आपने दूसरी बात कही कि भी यंगस्टर कहता है कि मैं साइन क्यों करूं बैलेंस शीट, अब बड़ा डर रहा हूं. इससे पहले कुछ और हो रहा था. सीनियर पार्टनर मलाई खुद खा रहे थे और साइन सारे जूनियर पार्टनर कर रहे थे. ये भी फैक्ट है. After all, I know some of the firms जिसमें सिर्फ जूनियर पार्टनर्स ने साइन किया, पर अब NFRA के आने से एक बात तो पक्की है जो हम अप्रिशिएट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, सिर्फ एक पार्टनर लायबल नहीं होगा,
दोनों,
क्योंकि एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर भी है और क्वालिटी एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर भी है।
राइट,
जो एंगेजमेंट क्वालिटी रिव्यू पार्टनर है उस एंगेजमेंट का, वो भी है, तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तो दोनों पे आ सकती है। तो एक बात तो पक्की है कि अगर हम ये समझें कि अब सिर्फ जूनियर ही फंसेगा, ये नहीं होने वाला,
ये नहीं होने वाला। राइट,
कोई ना कोई सीनियर तो आएगा कहीं ना कहीं पिक्चर में, तो जूनियर को कम से कम ये हौसला दे दीजिए, उसको ये इंस्पायर कर दीजिए कि यू आर नॉट द ओनली वन इन द नेट नाउ, देयर आर अदर्स इन द नेट। पर एक मुझे अभी तक बात समझ नहीं आई कि NFRA 2 मांगता है कि आपका एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर कौन है और आपका क्वालिटी रिव्यू पार्टनर कौन है, नाम मांगता। भाई जो प्रोप्राइटरी फर्म है उसमें क्या करूंगा मैं? और ये तो कहीं डिमांड नहीं है कि प्रोप्राइटरी फर्म कैन नॉट बी ऑडिटर ऑफ ए लिस्टेड एंटिटी और एन अनलिस्टेड एंटिटी जिसमें कि NFRA लागू है, ये तो कहीं नहीं है। मैं कई बार ये समझता हूँ ये जो हमारे ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स बने ना, ये कुछ बिगर फर्म्स को मद्देनजर रखते हुए बने, ये छोटी फर्म्स के लिए बने नहीं।
उसके लिए
These make the life of the auditor miserable, believe me। और इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, ये मैं आपको और बता दूं, आपने मेट्रिकुलिटी का बना दिया, सैम्पलिंग का बना दिया, कितने लोग फॉलो कर रहे हैं। पहले तो हमें अगर इंस्टीट्यूट हमें ये रिसर्च करनी पड़ेगी। आई वांट टू अंडरटेक ए प्रोजेक्ट माइसेल्फ एट एन इंडिविजुअल लेवल नाउ, कि कुछ कितनी कंपनीज में जो टॉप की 200 या 500 कंपनीज हैं इंडिया में, कितनों में ये आ रहा है कि पार्टीज बैलेंसेस आर सब्जेक्ट टू कंफर्मेशन, पता तो लगे आपको। I want to undertake some kind of research on these topics, very frankly। तो मैं करूंगा, इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे करूंगा। ये वैसे काम इंस्टीट्यूट को करना चाहिए आज की डेट में, क्योंकि शायद पानी सर के ऊपर से गुजरा है। NFRA आई है, NFRA किसी मैंडेट के साथ आई है, अभी उनके नंबर ऑफ केसेस कम है, उनके नंबर ऑफ केसेस बढ़ जाएंगे, परंतु जहां तक जूनियर सीनियर का सवाल है, मेरा अपना मानना ये है कि seniors will not be able to escape the responsibility.
right,
Let's be very clear about it. There is no way that the seniors will be able to escape the responsibility. NFRA Form 2 में ये तो मांग लिया उन्होंने कि ये बताइए किसी कंपनी में आपने रिजाइन किया पिछले 3 सालों में या नहीं किया, तो क्यों किया? These are trigger points.
correct,
Very frankly, these are trigger points. कि आपने अगर उस कंपनी से रिजाइन किया था तो वो कहेगा भाई इसको देखो, इस कंपनी को देखो कि क्यों रिजाइन हुआ था।
right। और अभी
ये सब चीजें आने वाले समय में सेटल होंगी, एंड आई पर्सनली फील दैट इट इज गोइंग टू वेरी फ्रैंकली क्वेश्चन पूछा जा रहा है कि वेदर ICAI should take the responsibility for hand holding the CFO. I think they have to do it. There's no way that we can shy away from it.
yeah,
There's no way that we can shy away from it. अभी इस साल में कम से कम ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स के ऊपर पहले कुछ सालों में हुए कुछ प्रोग्राम, पर इस साल में तो खैर हद हो गई है, ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स पे प्रोग्राम भी हो रहे हैं, पर मेंबर्स उसको फॉलो कितना करेंगे? हैंड होल्डिंग का मतलब स्पून फीडिंग नहीं होना चाहिए, बस यही है।
correct,
हम मेंबर को बता सकते हैं कि तुमने क्या करना है, स्पून फीडिंग नहीं कर सकते। I personally feel at times members expect spoon feeding. Spoon feeding नहीं होगी, hand holding हो सकती है, उनको बताया जा सकता है, उनको वार्न किया जा सकता है, caution किया जा सकता है, but nothing beyond that, very frankly.
yeah, right, sir। And I think there is always a tight rope walk when you talk about matlab fees versus expectation, versus over expectation, as well as things that are to be done, differences of opinion as to how the same matter is seen. I think one of the gentlemen has asked the question at the beginning also, that there is these kind of differences of opinion also always exist.
आपकी आवाज चली गई पद्मा।
Hello?
Your voice was gone in between.
Okay, sorry। So one of the gentlemen also had asked this question on to there will always be differences of opinion, कुछ ना कुछ हम करेंगे जहाँ पे मीन्स सामने वाले का व्यू पॉइंट थोड़ा डिफरेंट रहेगा. हाउ वी हैव थॉट दैट वी हैव कंप्लाइड, बट व्हेन वी सी फ्रॉम अ थर्ड पार्टी एंगल, हाउ इज इट दैट इट इज डिफरेंट? आई थिंक दैट काइंड ऑफ अ डिबेट वुड कंटिन्यू टू एग्जिस्ट इन.
नहीं, उसका आंसर मैं दे रहा हूँ, उसका आंसर मैं दे रहा हूँ. अगर आप जब कभी भी ऑडिट कर रहे हैं, आपने एक ऑब्जेक्शन रेज किया और दूसरे ने आंसर दिया, आप सेटिस्फाई हो गए, आपको ये लग रहा है कि भाई NFRA या इंस्टीट्यूट इससे सेटिस्फाई कैसे होगी. अगर आप अपने आप में कन्विंस्ड हैं कि आपकी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कंप्लीट है, आप पहली कन्विक्शन किसकी होनी चाहिए? अपनी होनी चाहिए. आई एम कन्विंस्ड अबाउट इट. मुश्किल ये है कि हम खुद कन्विंस नहीं होते, हमारा क्लाइंट कन्विंस्ड होता है. सिर्फ अगर मैं कन्विंस्ड हूं कि ये ठीक है, एंड इफ द डे आई स्टार्ट फीलिंग आई कैन डिफेंड दिस, दूसरे का ओपिनियन कुछ भी होगा कल, उसमें मुझे दिक्कत नहीं है. अगर किसी पॉइंट के ऊपर भी मैं ये मान लूं अपने आप को, बिल्कुल मैं 100% की भी बात नहीं करता, मैं 80% तक भी श्योर हूं कि आई विल बी एबल टू डिफेंड माई सेल्फ एंड हैव एनफ ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, एनफ ऑफ ऑडिट एविडेंस, आई नीड नॉट वरी अबाउट इट. आई कैन टेल यू दैट. मैं डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी में भी बैठता था, 4 साल बैठा वैसे और 3 साल वैसे बैठा, 1 साल एज ए काउंसिल मेंबर बैठा, 1 साल एज ए वाइस प्रेसिडेंट बैठा, 1 साल एज ए प्रेसिडेंट बैठा, और 4 साल में बैठा बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट नॉमिनेटेड मी लेटर ऑन. अगर मैंने ये देखा है, अगर जो व्यक्ति इस कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ आता है कि साहब मैं ठीक हूँ, और वो प्रूव करके जाता है तो प्रूव हो जाता है. ऐसा नहीं कि वो प्रूव नहीं होता, उसको हमें छोड़ना ही पड़ता. और ये NFRA में भी होगा. आज नहीं हो रहा है, आज NFRA जो है वो बड़ी माइक्रोस्कोपिक चल रही है, वो माइक्रोस्कोपिक चल नहीं पाएगी अल्टीमेटली, क्योंकि अदरवाइज एवरी जजमेंट विल गेट स्टेड समवेयर और द अदर. तो आने वाले समय में, एंड एज द ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स आर गोइंग ऑन नाउ विद द NFRA, इंस्टीट्यूट के मेंबर्स ही जाके उनको ट्रेन कर रहे हैं, उनको ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स पढ़ा रहे हैं, ऑडिट अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स पढ़ा रहे हैं. तो मेरे ख्याल में जो पहले C&AG में हालत थी, C&AG में काफी इंप्रूव हुआ, वही हालत NFRA में भी होगी, वहां पे भी इंप्रूवमेंट होगी. और they will also start realizing the practical difficulties of the auditors also. It's not that they will not realize. 100% कभी भी फुल प्रूफ केस आपका हो नहीं सकता. परंतु अगर आप अपने आप को 70%, 80%, 90% प्रूव कर पाते हैं, I think that's good enough. और उसमें अगर कभी किसी ने क्वेश्चन कर दिया तो कर दिया, कोई बात नहीं. Caution is not an issue because caution is not a conviction. Let's be very clear about it.
Right.
And I do expect NFRA, rather than being mere critical, suggest ways and means to improve the quality.
Absolutely.
और आपको ये टाइम दें. ये अभी इसमें मतलब कि मेरे हिसाब से आज नहीं होगा या कल होगा, होगा जरूर. आपको टाइम दिया जाएगा कि आपका फिर एक क्वालिटी रिव्यू 1 साल के बाद करेंगे या 2 साल के बाद करेंगे, और ये देखेंगे कि आपने क्या ये पॉइंट जो हमने आपको कहा कि आपने आपको इम्प्रूव करिए, आपने किया या नहीं किया.
Maybe remediation review या फिर action taken.
वो बहुत जरूरी है. And I think PCOB etc. do that.
Remediation reviews है.
और मेरा अपना मानना ये है कि NFRA को भी अगर ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशन बनना है तो उनको भी ये करना पड़ेगा कि भाई हम आपका आज की डेट में ये कह रहे हैं कि आपकी ये क्वालिटी इस एरिया में डेफिशिएंट है, परंतु इसके बाद आपने इम्प्रूव कर लिया. इट्स गुड एनफ फॉर अस के 1 साल के अंदर आपने इम्प्रूव कर लिया, 1.5 साल के अंदर इम्प्रूव कर लिया, पर वो एरिया वही होगा जिसमें उनको ये नहीं लग रहा होगा कि ट्रू एंड फेयर यू हैव बीन यूज्ड.
So I think sir applicability पे 2 questions थे 2 participant के. एक तो means इनके NFRA के constitute होने के पहले का cases whether they can actually investigate prior to their constitution.
I personally feel, देखिए ये the matter is sub judice, so I don't want to comment upon it. क्योंकि Deloitte ने challenge ये कर रखी है उनकी jurisdiction कि भाई ये केस जो था NFRA के एग्जिस्टेंस में आने से पहले था, तो ये नहीं कर सकते. तो लेट द कोर्ट डिसाइड अबाउट इट. व्हाई शुड आई कमेंट ऑन दिस? मेरा व्यू कुछ भी हो सकता है वेरी फ्रैंकली. और दूसरी बात मैं ये कहूँगा कि अगर आप सही मानों में मेरे से पूछें तो NFRA को उसमें थोड़ा सा लार्ज हार्टेड दिखाना चाहिए था और ये कहना चाहिए था कि इंस्टीट्यूट इसको टेक अप करते मैटर को. लेट द इंस्टीट्यूट डिसाइड अबाउट इट. बिकॉज़ द हेवंस वुड नॉट हैव फॉलन. आफ्टर ऑल सत्यम को भी डिसाइड किया ही है, ऐसा नहीं कि उसको डिसाइड नहीं किया. कुछ और फ्रॉड केसेस को भी डिसाइड किया, कुछ और बैंक स्कैम केसेस को भी डिसाइड किया, तो वो हो सकता था। नहीं किया NFRA ने, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट मैटर ऑल टुगेदर, बट आई विल नॉट लाइक टू हैज़र्ड अ गेस कि कल कोर्ट्स क्या कहेंगी इस पर्टिकुलर मामले।
Then applicability to private limited companies, so as of now if they
वो तो है ही ना,
belong to a
अनलिस्टेड
certain,
एंटिटीज में अगर आपके यू आर फॉलोइंग, आपकी अगर पेड अप कैपिटल 100 करोड़ से ऊपर की है और आपकी जो बोरोइंग है वो 500 करोड़ से ऊपर की, आपकी टर्नओवर 1000 करोड़ से ऊपर की है, यू कैन
या
डेफिनेटली।
फिर आप सर्टेन सेक्टर के हो तो फिर वो भी
सर्टेन सेक्टर के मैंने ऑलरेडी बता दिया, इंश्योरेंस के हैं, बैंकिंग के हैं, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन के हैं, ट्रांसमिशन के हैं, या ऐसी कंपनीज हैं जो बॉडी कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं जो कि बाहर इनकॉर्पोरेट हुई हैं, उनकी सब्सिडीज यहाँ पे हैं, या यहाँ पे कंपनीज हैं उनकी सब्सिडीज बाहर हैं, तो वो कवर्ड है उसके अंदर। तो जो नफरा रूल्स में कवर्ड है उसको आप अवॉइड नहीं कर पाएंगे।
राइट सर, इतना हम लोग उनका पावर्स और उनका वर्किंग और उनका प्रोसेसेस के बारे में बात करें तो आर देयर एनी लिमिटेशंस टू देयर रोल? आई थिंक देयर आर 2-3 क्वेश्चंस आल्सो फ्रॉम the participants which we will take up. I think is there any limitations to NFRA role?
What limitation?
In the sense, are there any I can say boundaries? Are there any cut shots that they cannot step into, which as of now we don't see? Whatever is there, they are covering it.
अगर उन्होंने अपना अगर जो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स की कंप्लायंस देखनी, ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड की कंप्लायंस देखनी, क्वालिटी का देखना, आपकी इंडिपेंडेंस को जज करना, इसके ऊपर तो कोई लिमिटेशन नहीं है ना। एनीथिंग दे कैन आस्क यू,
yeah, professional standards,
ask you for any kind of documentation so far as this particular part is concerned.
right?
अब एक फर्म का उन्होंने जो जजमेंट किया है, हालांकि वो स्टे हो गया है, अब उन्होंने उसमें ये कहा कि भाई इनका तो क्वालिटी रिव्यू का सिस्टम ही नहीं है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर, उसमें उसको गिल्टी किया। तो ये सब चीजें हैं, तो लिमिटेशन कोई नहीं है उनके रोल के ऊपर। ये आप कहें कि साहब वो ये पेपर नहीं मांग पाएंगे, ये पेपर नहीं मांग पाएंगे, जो सीपीसी में पावर्स हो सकती हैं वो पावर्स उनके पास हैं। दे कैन समन एनी विटनेस, वो पावर भी उनके पास है। सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड के अंदर जो भी पावर, और आप ये कहें कि हम रिकॉर्ड नहीं प्रोड्यूस करेंगे, ये नहीं होगा, वो तो कंपनीज को भी प्रोड्यूस एनफोर्स कर सकते हैं कि आप रिकॉर्ड प्रोड्यूस करिए।
राइट। One of the questions from one of the participants is on how should audit firms strengthen internal quality review mechanisms so that they stand up to the scrutiny of NFRA. I think we have covered that very much in detail, that whatever we
वो मैं ये कहूँगा कि भाई SQC 1 पे डिबेट करें अपने ऑफिस के अंदर वेरी फ्रेंकली, और SQC 1 की जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं उसको मीट करने की कोशिश करें। देखिए एक बात आप मान के चलिएगा, अगर NFRA में केस जाएगा तो SQC 1 के ऊपर ही पूरी डिबेट होगी आपकी, और अगर आपके पास SQC 1 नहीं है और आपकी क्वालिटी कंट्रोल की पॉलिसी नहीं है, इंडिपेंडेंस की पॉलिसी नहीं है, यू आर गोइंग टू रन इनटू प्रॉब्लम। सो ये तो आपको, अगर आप ये समझते हैं कि भाई मैं इंडिविजुअल हूँ, मेरा उसका रिव्यू कौन करेगा, मैं ये क्वेश्चन तो मैंने पहले भी किया कि मैं एक प्रोप्राइटरी फर्म हूँ, मेरे पे ये तो डिपार्टमेंट है नहीं कि मैं इन कंपनीज को ऑडिट नहीं कर सकता जो नफरा के प्रिव्यू में। तो उन केसेस में क्या होगा, आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच NFRA विल हैव टू डिसाइड, क्योंकि उसमें आप क्वालिटी रिव्यू पार्टनर ढूंढ ही नहीं सकते ना किसी भी सूरत में, परंतु आपको कहीं ना कहीं SQC 1 को कंप्लाई करने के लिए चाहे कोई एम्प्लॉय को या किसी बाहर वाले को एंगेज करना पड़ेगा जो आपके यहाँ पे वो सिस्टम को इन्फोर्स कर सके।
राइट सर, राइट। आई थिंक
मेरा अपना मानना ये है कि एक पार्टनर अगर दूसरे पार्टनर का काम करना चेक करना शुरू कर देगा, इट्स अ गुड सिस्टम टू हैपन। एक पार्टनर दूसरे पार्टनर की फाइलें रिव्यू कर ले कि भाई जो होना चाहिए था, ऑडिट प्रोग्राम लगा हुआ है या नहीं लगा हुआ, आपने ऑडिट टीम जो सिलेक्ट की वो उस वर्क के अकॉर्डिंगली सिलेक्ट की या नहीं की, उनके पास वो कॉम्पिटेंस थी काम करने के लिए या नहीं की, उन्होंने जो ऑब्जर्वेशन रेज की वो किस फॉर्मेट में थी और उसका किस तरीके से समाधान हुआ, और अगर आपके पास उस समाधान का ऑडिट एविडेंस नहीं है तो यू आर गोइंग टू रन इनटू प्रॉब्लम्स। ये सब चीजें आपके पास रहेंगी। अब आप एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन की बात करते हैं, एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन के असम्पशंस आपने चेक किए या नहीं किए,
ये कि नहीं,
यू विल टेल दैट।
राइट।
ये सब चीजें।
सर अभी नया मतलब AQMM is also getting implemented by ICAI. The larger audience is getting aware of it, and AQMM, audit quality maturity model and things like that.
क्वेश्चन नहीं लिया आपको।
ऑडिट कमिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल जो ICAI ने सजेस्ट करी है,
ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल,
हाँ जी,
ऑडिट क्वालिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल,
ऑडिट क्वालिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल AQMM जो ICAI ने भी सजेस्ट करे हैं, जिनके स्कोर्स के हिसाब से क्वालिटी।
एक ही बात पद्मश्री बोलूंगा, कई कंपनीज के यहाँ रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम्स थे ना, हम जब बिग 4 के पास या बड़ी फर्म्स के पास जाते हैं, हर एक आदमी कहता है आपके यहाँ रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम है। मेरा कई बार, जहाँ पे मैं ऑडिट कमेटी चेयरमैन हूँ और कई फर्म्स प्रेजेंट करने आते हैं कंसल्टेंट्स के जी ये हम रिस्क मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट, मैं उनसे ये पूछता हूँ कि भाई एनरॉन में रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम था नहीं था, लेमन ब्रदर्स में रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम था या नहीं था, वर्ल्ड कॉम में था या नहीं था, सत्यम में था या नहीं था, इन सब में ही थे रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम।
करेक्ट।
ये तो हमने ओल्ड वाइन इन न्यू बॉटल करके दे देते हैं, क्योंकि हमें अपनी कंसल्टेंसी का बिजनेस चलाते रहना कहीं ना कहीं पे। लेट्स बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट इट। ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल में भी वेरी गुड कंसेप्ट, पर आप ये कहेंगे कि अगर अनक्वालिफाइड रिपोर्ट है तो ऑडिट क्वालिटी मैच्योर्ड है, या आप ये कहेंगे कि इसमें क्वालिफिकेशन ज्यादा है तो ऑडिट क्वालिटी बेहतर है, ये अपने आप में बड़ा क्वेश्चन मार्क है। लेट्स बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट। आपकी क्वालिटी का मैच्योरिटी मॉडल इस पे तो डिपेंड कर सकता है कि भी आपने सैंपल किस तरीके से पिकअप किया, आपने मैच्योरिटी लेवल किस तरीके से फिक्स किया, आपने ऑडिट एविडेंसेस कैसे गैदर किए, आपने जो ओपिनियन एक्सप्रेस किया उसमें क्या किया। देयर कैन बी नो, आई विल से, जिसको आप फिक्स आंसर्स कहते हैं ना ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल के लिए, वो नहीं हो सकता।
वो नहीं,
और ये
सब्जेक्ट
डिफरेंट फर्म्स विल फॉलो डिफरेंट मॉडल, बिलीव मी, मार्क माय वर्ड्स।
राइट।
मेरा अपना मानना ये है कि एक मारवाड़ी जो है ना, जो एक प्रोप्राइटरी रन कर रहा होगा, उसकी कितनी भी बड़ी कंपनी है, उसके शायद रिस्क मैनेजमेंट बेटर होगी या एक वेरी प्रोफेशनल मैनेज कंपनी से। इट इज पॉसिबल,
हो सकता है,
क्योंकि वो मारवाड़ी को ये पता है कि मेरा पैसा कहाँ लगा और कहाँ डूब सकता है। ही विल मैनेज हिज रिस्क मच बेटर देन द अदर्स। सो सिर्फ सिस्टम होने से गुजारा नहीं होने वाला,
राइट।
गुजारा होगा जब लोग उसको फॉलो करेंगे। अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स तो हमारे बड़े सालों से हैं, अब अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड फॉलो होंगे तभी तो फॉलो होंगे ना अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड। हमारी दिक्कत ये हुई है, अब IFRS तो के बराबर के स्टैंडर्ड तो हम ही लेके आए हैं, AS तो लोगों को भी समझ नहीं आए, इफेक्ट है। हम IFRS रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल की बात कर रहे हैं, ये सब चीजें अपने आप में कॉम्प्लिकेशन है। और ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल, यस, वर्ल्ड वाइड एक टॉक शुरू होती है, उसको आप किसी लेवल पे लेके जाना चाहते हैं, बिकॉज एज एन इंस्टीट्यूट यू आल्सो वांट्स टू डेमोन्स्ट्रेट समथिंग is happening. It's a good thing to happen. I'm not against that particular change, but I think what is most important is the members must understand what is quality, what are the parameters of the quality. अगर वो पैरामीटर्स फॉलो करना शुरू कर दें तो ऑडिट क्वालिटी, अगर आप ये कहें कि साहब अगर आपके यहाँ पे IT सिस्टम्स नहीं है तो आपके यहाँ ऑडिट क्वालिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल, ये तो आई कांट एग्री टू, आई कांट एग्री टू दिस। अगर आपके पास दूसरा सिस्टम है जिससे आप कर सकते हैं, and if none of your reports have been found faulty at any point of time and your quality is genuinely good, then what happens? Yes, in today's date one can say that unless you do data analytics, you apply certain tools.
Yeah.
पर अगर मैं ये टूल्स की बात करूं तो हमारी तो कई ऐसी फर्म्स हैं जो कभी उसमें ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल में आएंगी नहीं बेचारी, क्योंकि उनके पास पैसे ही नहीं होंगे टूल यूज करने के लिए। उसके लिए जो मेंबर ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था उस पर मैं बड़ा क्लियर हूँ। हैंड होल्डिंग एक्सरसाइज की जब हम बात करते हैं, then the tools must be procured by the institute and must be provided to the individuals at a very nominal cost. आप उनको कहिए कि हम टूल्स प्रिपेयर करते हैं या परचेज करते हैं, प्रोक्योर करते हैं, और आप उसको यूज कर सकते हैं। आई थिंक दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। वो अगर नहीं होगा तो मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ, आप कुछ भी करते रहें, आप कुछ भी करते रहें, यहाँ पे ये होगा नहीं। और कई जो बेचारी प्रोप्राइटरी कंपनी हैं या स्मॉल मीडियम प्रैक्टिशनर्स हैं, उनको आप हमेशा ये कहते रहोगे कि इनकी क्वालिटी ठीक नहीं है। एक अभी किसी ने पूछा मेंबर ने कि प्लीज स्पेसिफाई योर क्वेश्चन।
नहीं, I asked that.
क्वालिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल के बारे में पता होना चाहिए लोगों को कि क्या इंस्टीट्यूट कर रही है। और दुर्गेश काबरा जी उसके शायद चेयरमैन है कमेटी के आज के डेट में। और हमने इंस्टीट्यूट में सेटअप किया ऑफिस इन जयपुर इन दी क्वालिटी ऑफ इन दी बिल्डिंग देयर। तो वो मेरे ख्याल में अभी तो इस पर चर्चा भी शुरू नहीं हुई। जितनी चर्चा शुरू हुई बहुत कम लोगों को पता, पर आने वाले टाइम में यस इट इज वन ऑफ द थिंग्स व्हिच शुड हैपन। बट आई थिंक बिफोर दैट व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इज दैट इंस्टीट्यूट मस्ट इंश्योर और द NFRA विल इंश्योर द adherence to the auditing standards. ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स आप अधेयर कर जाओ ना तो अपने आप ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल आ जाएगा। और आप ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल में क्या लाना चाहते हैं? कंप्लायंस विद द ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड देता है ना अल्टीमेटली। अब मैं दूसरी बात कहता हूँ, आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ, आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ पद्मश्री, आप तो क्योंकि बड़ी फर्म में है, मैं ये कहता हूँ मैंने सर्कुलेट की है कंफर्मेशन, एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन 95% नहीं है, तो मैं क्या मानूं कि मेरा ऑडिट मैच्योरिटी मॉडल क्या है?
सर्कुलेट सिर्फ करने से our duty does not end there. By circulating we
most of us, I think 90% of us believe कि circulate कर दिया matter.
nahi, it doesn't end there. We have to follow up. If we don't get, then we will have to do subsequent verification, build up the balances.
Should it become a matter of emphasis or not? कभी मैंने 90% के मेरे पास कंफर्मेशन नहीं आया,
It is a qualification.
नहीं भी करूं, मैं क्वालिफाई नहीं भी करूं, should it become a matter of emphasis or not?
Sir, it is a qualification if you don't get 90% confirmations and if you
मुझे ढूंढ के बताइए कितनी बैलेंस शीट्स में ये
qualification. That is why you know there was one I think it was in one of the publications, I don't remember exactly, I think FRRB या QRB का observation में था, the note that specifies that all the balances are subject to reconciliation and discussion, reconciliation and confirmation. That kind of note itself is not valid because if it is not confirmed,
आज की डेट में यही मैं कह रहा हूँ, उसका कारण दूसरा भी है। अगर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ तो मैं कंपनीज एक्ट के 143(9) और 10 की वायलेशन कर रहा हूँ सीधी। 143(9) और 10 ये कह रहे हैं कि भाई यू हैव टू अडेयर टू ऑल ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स। और अगर आपने कंफर्मेशन ही नहीं ली और रिकंसाइल नहीं किया है तो फिर कैसे आपने AS/SA 505 को कंप्लाई किया?
Right.
और जब डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी के सामने ये केस आता है, बड़ी फर्म्स का भी आता, तो कहते हैं सर वी आर नॉट सपोज्ड टू, मतलब कि ये कहीं मैंडेटरी नहीं है कि हमें सर्कुलेट करना, ये कहता है यू मे, और अगर नहीं किया तो देन देयर आर अदर अल्टरनेट थिंग्स दैट वी कैन अप्लाई। ये कहा जाता है, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी के सामने बड़ी फर्म्स कह रही है, ये छोटी फर्म्स की तो मैं बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ। बड़ी फर्म्स आके ये कहती हैं सर देयर वर अल्टरनेट प्रोसीजर्स दैट वी हैव अप्लाइड एंड वी वर सेटिस्फाइड कि ये ठीक है पार्टी, फिर क्या करोगे आप?
Sir, it is actually based on what is audit evidence that is available. It cannot be just that I thought it and I felt it.
हमारा स्टैंडर्ड ही गलत है कि हमने मे वर्ड यूज किया होगा, होना शैल चाहिए, वेरी फ्रेंडली।
Yeah. So I think that was a very detailed deliberation and thanks for so much of your insights and you know there was a lot of things that we tried to cover. Yes, it's an endless session. I can say there are more questions and there can be more deliberations that can happen, but it was wonderful interacting with you, sir, and out of this it puts certain questions to rest, but also it triggers some thinking amongst us.
questions हो जो unanswered हो आप पूछ लीजिएगा।
नहीं सर, कोई नहीं है अभी question. I think someone wanted to understand only on NFRA form 2, जिसके लिए मैंने उनको लिखा था कि can you please specify your question what in NFRA form 2?
NFRA form 2 has to be filed by 30th April every year. अगर आप कवर्ड हैं उसमें तो आपको वो फॉर्म फाइल करना है। और अब ये आ गया है शायद कि अगर आप फाइल नहीं करेंगे तो मिनिमम 5,000 प्लस 500 रुपीज और 100 रुपीज एवरी डे डिफॉल्ट की पेनल्टी है आपको। पर वो फॉर्म बड़ा एग्जॉस्टिव है। उसमें आपसे सब चीजें पूछी गई हैं, आपके पार्टनर्स कितने हैं, आपके एम्प्लॉइज कितने हैं, आपके एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर कौन है, आपके क्वालिटी पार्टनर कौन है, सब कुछ पूछ लिया गया आपसे, कुछ छोड़ा नहीं गया। आप पे डिसिप्लिनरी प्रोसीडिंग्स कोई चल रही हैं या चली हैं, कभी कोई कन्विक्शन हुई है, आपने कोई रेजिग्नेशन किसी से दिया है, किसी कंपनी से, जो मैंने पहले भी बोला था, ये सब चीजें आपसे पूछी गई हैं NFRA में।
सर ड्यू डेट उसकी 30th नवंबर है ना, राइट?
वो एक बार की थी कोविड के दौरान।
नहीं
वैसे
सर,
जो आप रूल्स देखेंगे उसमें उन्होंने 30th अप्रैल लिखा हुआ है एवरी ईयर।
हाँ, बट दैट
एनुअल
वाज
रिटर्न हैज टू बी फाइल्ड एवरी ईयर बाय 30th of April.
Sir, I think the reminders or the forms also open only after August,
मैं
September.
अगर रूल्स पढ़ दूं आपको जो मेरे पास है इस वक्त 18 के,
राइट, रूल्स में 30th अप्रैल है, बाद में
30th
एक्सटेंड
अप्रैल
कर दिया था,
बाद में
30th
एक्सटेंड किया गया, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट मैटर, बट रूल्स के अकॉर्डिंगली 30th अप्रैल ही अनलेस एक्सटेंड अगर आपको कर दें कोई, क्योंकि अमेंडेड रूल्स में कहीं पे नहीं है वो। हाँ भाई, सर्कुलर अगर कहीं पे एक्सटेंड हुआ होगा तो फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पीरियड हुआ होगा। और अगर मैं रूल से जाऊंगा तो 2018 का रूल तो 30th अप्रैल का था, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। और मैं आई विल स्टैंड करेक्टेड ऑन इट इफ आई एम रॉन्ग ऑन इट। I don't stand on false egos. I will like to check it up and come back to you on this.
Right, sir. So I think first year was circular tha, and then rules got amended to 30th November is my understanding, and I think someone else has also put that up.
मुझे ये पता है कि कोविड के पीरियड में तो डेफिनेटली एक्सटेंड करते रहे इसको।
Yeah, and the form pertains to the 1 year back, whatever we have signed for 1 year back. So if I'm filing it today, it is for the year 2021.
3 years back.
Yeah,
that's true.
Right. I think yes, sir. That was great, insightful, and a lot of talking. Over to you, Manish sir. Hitesh sir. Sir, you're on mute.
You're on mute, sir.
Manish sir, you're
Manish
on mute.
You are on mute.
Sir, thank you, madam. Sir, you want to say something? The summary, you have given various instructions, various suggestions also, but in summarized form, you want to say something to the participant before I'll go to vote of thanks.
एक ही बात कहूंगा कि राइट टू अवॉइड कि NFRA आपके द्वार पे आए, और द्वार पे आ जाए तो आप उनको वो इंफॉर्मेशन दे पाए जो डिजायर्ड है। सबसे एक बात कहूंगा कि SQC 1 के ऊपर अपने ऑफिस में चर्चा शुरू करें, और उसके सिस्टम्स को इंस्टॉल करने के लिए जो भी करना पड़े वो करें, और जो एक पॉलिसी इंडिपेंडेंस की है वो बनाएं, और बिफोर एक्सेप्टिंग एनी अपॉइंटमेंट जो उसके स्टेप्स हैं टू इंश्योर दैट यू आर इंडिपेंडेंट, और उसकी जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है वो आप जरूर कर लें। और ऑडिट एविडेंस आप कैसे कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं उस पर जरा जोर मारें। आपने जो ऑब्जेक्शंस रेज की हुई हैं उनको आपने सेटल कैसे किया, उसका समाधान कैसे किया। I think that's very important, particularly audit evidence with regard to the settled observations is very, very important. It's very critical. आपने अगर फाइंडिंग्स नहीं है ट्रू एंड फेयर की, तो आपका ऑडिट एविडेंस ये रिफ्लेक्ट करना चाहिए कि ये वाकई में ट्रू एंड फेयर है। और अगर आपने कहा नॉट ट्रू एंड फेयर है तो उसकी ऑडिट एविडेंस आपके पास होनी चाहिए, और डिस्क्लेमर दे रहे हैं तो वो भी आपके पास होना चाहिए कि व्हाई यू से दैट यू आर अनएबल टू गिव एन ओपिनियन, फॉर्म एन ओपिनियन विद रिगार्ड देयरटू। That's all I will like to say right now.
Thank you very much, sir. So it was really a great session, and I thanks on behalf of WIRC and on my personal behalf, first to Padmashree madam for accepting our invitation to be a moderator of the session, moderating the session, preparing the question, and getting the various questions which were in the mind of the participants, getting the answer from the Chopra sir. I also thanks Chopra sir, because it's always a treat to listen to him, the experience what he has. So it's really great, sir. And thank you for accepting our invitation, sparing your valuable time, sharing your knowledge, clearing various doubts. And you also touched upon the over expectation from auditor, from the stakeholder. But at the same time, you said that we have to be more vigilant, and the changes in the Karu is also an alert for us. And the evidence, audit evidence, and whatever you are reporting should match with your report. So it's really a great, good takeaway for all of us. And I request all the participants to thank Chopra sir with loud applause. Thank you, sir.
So thank you, Padmashree. It was nice interacting with you. Your questions were quite incisive. I must say that. And it was a good session because ये NFRA के ऊपर मैं भी पहली बार कोई इंटरेक्शन कर रहा हूँ, very frankly. So it was good for me also. This was there, but I really enjoyed it discussing with you because you also belong to practicing fraternity, and you are not theoretical. You are also absolutely practical with the various questions. So thanks a lot to all the participants who were there. आ रही है कि भाई SQC 1 के ऊपर भी एक सेशन रखें, तो वो I will leave it to the organizers for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your guidance, and thanks so much for your views, sir. And thanks, Manish sir. And also
Thank you both of you. Really, it was a great session.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Mishra ji, close कर दीजिए.